out in the front.
Exactly. Okay,
That's it.
thank you. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending this webinar. I will give an introduction on the Building Renovation Passport topic, which got quite a buzz here at the political discussions on how to improve energy efficiency in buildings. And I think my introduction will serve to give you a little bit a perspective on what is possible, but I think the presentations after are even more interesting and relevant, since it's really projects put in place or being implemented right now. And then we end with the presentation from Felix, where they really give a perspective on what is the industry side of this topic, what is their opinion, and we are happy to hear them as well. So I will just start. I think we all agree that for new buildings with the near zero energy regulations coming up, that we are moving in the correct direction, but that the main challenge is really the existing building stock. And I think these numbers say everything. Like if you see that half of the buildings built before 1975 still will be in use in 2050, and if you see that 75 to 90% of the current building stock will remain in use in 2050, we definitely need to increase our renovation rate, and that at the same time. And I think this slide shows very well what we talk about. It comes from the Zebra project, which we finalized at the end of last year, and we set up a methodology to find the equivalent major renovation rate. And you see that from Spain, very low rate, to Norway, where renovation rate is quite high. But if we want to go to decarbonized building stock by 2050, we need to realize that we almost need to renovate 3% at each country. So there's a gigantic gap to be filled. And so we need to look for instruments to fill this gap. And therefore, the concept of today is one of the possible instruments to do so. This shows a little bit this graph where we are right now on the down left corner. Because if you see the horizontal X, which is the renovation rate, but on the same time the vertical X where you see the renovation depth, we really should go to a much deeper renovation, at the same time a higher renovation rate. As I mentioned before, we need to go to 2 to even 3% renovation rate. Well, we have an average in Europe of around 1%. So do we go there by ramping up the renovation rates and then later increase, or do we go immediately for a depth renovation and then to end to a deep renovation? And I think that's an interesting question, because if we see the current renovation culture across Europe, is that there's very often a step-by-step renovation, very often due to financial reasons. But this fragmented renovation is a very high risk to lock in, and I have some examples of lock-in effects. So if you do a renovation and you don't foresee where to add later on external insulation and make the connection with the eaves and the window frames, then you really create future thermal breaches and building physical problems. The same counts for lock-in effect on example of renovating your attic. Like if you don't foresee enough insulation, or even in the future you want to have solar panels but you don't foresee the connections, you lock yourself in, and this has then cost increase, will be extra burden for the building owner. So you really need to foresee a long-term roadmap to have this renovation. And the last example on risks to lock in. So if you install a new heating system, but afterwards you work on your building envelope and you replace your windows, well, if this heating system is still dimensioned according to the former energy performance, it is not optimal. And the same you could say if you want to add later on solar thermal panels, or if there is even a possibility to be connected to a district heating. So all of this, that has to be foreseen in a plan. And the problem is if we don't foresee this deep renovation on the long term, we don't achieve our renovation targets or the energy consumption targets for the building by 2050. So if you want to go to this deep and qualitative renovation, I think there are two solutions. One, you go immediately to a holistic renovation process, and an excellent example of that is Energiesprong from the Netherlands, where you really, you cover the whole building in once. But very often that is not feasible, and it's not happening right now. So if you go anyway for a step-by-step renovation, you really need to have this kind of renovation roadmap. And that's what it is about today. So let me quickly pause on the common barriers for deeper renovation. Is that, first of all, your building owner, they very often lack information because it's a very technical aspect that they should know. And it goes from simple things. And for example, for my own house, I'm renovating right now, and I have a steep and a flat roof. And on my flat roof, I added 16 centimeters of polyurethane insulation. And my father is renovating as well, but he added only 8 centimeters of insulation. And he asked me, well, why do you put 16? And well, actually, I asked him, why do you put only 8 centimeters? And that's basically because people are not informed, and it's too technical for them to follow up. On the other hand, renovation is really perceived as a large burden. It costs time, money. Very often you have dust, so people are really reluctant to renovate. And then an issue that we frequently noticed is that even if there is an audit taking place, very often it does not incentivize the building owner to really renovate, because it's very much about the technical aspect. So how can we take the human aspects and take into account the situation of the building owner? And of course, there's a limited financial resources, which is very much or very often a problem on upfront costing, because large part of the costs are covered by your energy savings. But this upfront costing is very often a problem. And then last but not least is that there's of course always the governmental aspect of legislation and support measures. And we see that the support measures very often they are stop and go, depending on which politicians are in power. So this complexity increases the reluctance from the building owner to take actions to renovate. So if we go a little bit deeper into the policy tools that the public authority has to improve energy performance, you have these 3 aspects of moving the donkey. I'm not saying that building owners are donkeys, but you can have enforcement, you can have communication, and you can have stimulation. And you have enforcement like home inspections and other obligations, but it's very often a question mark if obligations on renovations, if they can be ambitious enough. And so we actually say that if you really want to go for deep energy performance, you have to support by subsidy schemes. But very often, and with current economical situation, the subsidy schemes are being decreased, so they have to be handled more effective as well. And then the communicative aspect is really about guiding the building owner to where he has to go, what he has to do, when he has to do, and so on. And that is something that is not covered enough. So if you combine these 2 aspects, you actually come very close to the concept of a building renovation passport, where you actually guide the building owner what to do, where, when, and so on, and that you make actually the link with the subsidy schemes or support measures. Very often there is the question, okay, so what is then the link with the energy performance certificate, because that's a tool which is used all over Europe and obliged because of the Energy Performance Directive. Under the ZEPA project, we did a survey with real estate experts across 8 member states, and we asked them if there is a link between EPCs and the improvement of the energy efficiency of buildings. And well, 1/4 they don't know if there is an effect. Almost 1/3 says that there is an effect, which is already positive, but almost half of them, they say there is no effect between the EPC and actually the renovation works to do. So what is then actually the difference between the EPC and the renovation passport, as we mentioned here today? Well, an energy performance certificate, it really informs potential buyers, tenants on the building's energy performance as such. It's the same as if you go to buy a washing machine or a dishwasher, that it has an energy label. So it really is an instrument to inform possible future owners, but that means that it is really directly related to the building as such, and it doesn't take into account the personal situation of the family. So that is exactly what a building renovation roadmap does, is that it is specific for one family, in this case this happy family over here, and it really develops a personalized step-by-step renovation roadmap. And of course, it is not that these two are opposite instruments. Contrary, the EPC can serve very well as a, well, it can be part of the renovation roadmap as a starting point. So what is this building renovation passport? I mentioned before the renovation roadmap aspect, which is then the step-by-step guidance resulting from an on-site energy audit. And this is really like a longer-term perspective. We speak here about 15 to 20 years to consider really the individual context of the family. So it can be about what is the size of the family, will kids leave the house, what is the financial possibilities right now, will there maybe be financial possibilities in 5 to 10 years. So depending on their situation, you have really this step-by-step guidance. But at the same time, and it is a second aspect which I did not mention yet today, and it's the interesting case that Flanders will deepen out a little bit more, is the logbook aspect, as we call it. And that is really a repository of all building-related information. And I think there is really a large potential to work on this instrument. And with that we mean really that you gather all building-related information from energy consumption, even energy production, the executed maintenance, construction plans, and so on. And why would this be relevant? I think this slide is very interesting. It is a pilot project supported by the University of Ghent in Belgium, where they renovated 82 buildings to low energy dwellings. And afterwards they measured the real energy consumption. And what you see on the graph is that the buildings with the red squares, they consume after construction more than double of what was designed. In orange they consume more than what was designed but less than double, and in green they consume the same or less than what was designed. And what you see here is that almost not even 1/3 of the total buildings consume almost half of the total energy use. So without the monitoring on the energy consumption, these problems would not come out. And so that is something really to research further on. I think this one here on the top down, he was on holidays for 1 year maybe. But so there is a lot of possibility to gather information on the individual building level. And there is, as we mentioned before, the existing EPC. But at the same time, you can gather on-site information, such as an additional energy audit. But you have also as well your building professionals, such as installers or architects, who have lots of information. And your architects have the construction plans, installers that come for maintenance. They can give information on the performance of your installation. In the future, we think even BIMs would be, the building information modeling systems might be included. At the same time, your building owner or tenant can foresee information like your energy performance if there's no smart metering. And there's as well the issue of public authorities, which have specific information, for example, tax related or on level of the soil, contamination, things like that. But more and more buildings are having automated data available, and you can think of the smart meter rollout, which is happening across Europe, but also more and more Internet of Things systems are popping up. A smart thermostat, which is showing you how much energy you're consuming, which is switching off automatically. Your indoor air quality meters like your CO2 meter and so on. So all of this can fit actually in this concept of a building renovation passport, and the aspect of renovation roadmap I explained before, but I want to go a little bit more in detail on the logbook aspect. So you really can have one, how do you say, more the easy aspect of having an inventory of non-dynamic information. So just gathering all possible information. But you can think of having really more management and monitoring of your real-time energy consumption. For example, that is giving you signals if your heating system is not working as it should, or if your energy consumption is higher as a designed energy consumption. And you can even go to more innovative concepts where you link your building owners with third parties. You can think of public authorities who have to pay or give support mechanisms. So if you grant your, for an example, if you install roof insulation, your installer can add in the system that the proof of the roof installation, and then the public authority can check it out there without that actually the building owner has to be annoyed by doing this. So you overcome these administrative barriers. You can even go a step further. You can even think about a virtual marketplace where you check your renovation roadmap, where, for example, your next step is to replace your windows and outside wall insulation. Well, in your logbook is already a lot of information available on surfaces, on square meters of windows, where they are located, which orientation, and so on, and the request of which kind of windows you want. And that can be then added on a virtual market where private actors can then react to the consumer that they are interested to offer a proposal. So this logbook aspect, that I think that's quite a new concept, which is not worked out yet, but it can be very promising. So that is a very short introduction on this concept. For those that want to have more information, on our website we have for free available all our publications, and one of these publications is exactly on this concept, where we also go deeper in the example of Flanders and Germany. At the same time, I can assure you that BPA will be working on this project or on this concept in the future as well. So if you're more interested, feel free to send me an email and to register on our newsletter as well. Thank you all, and Alexander, the word is back to you.